Hi, everyone. I am Regina Ryder, and I want to welcome you to an introduction to my 5 essentials for crafting a fulfilling walk. I am here today, and this is an interesting situation because here it is. It's May 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I invited all of you to come to my presentation and it's like 9:15 and one person has come in with audio and that's my business coach. So we chatted for a few minutes while waiting for others, and I am now solo. And undaunted, I'm gonna just go ahead and record a bit about telling you about my 5 essentials. So, and it's interesting because I was concerned that I'd be sending out a video with um, participants in it who weren't necessarily going to be happy to have their faces shared. So for privacy, this actually works out pretty well. I've blocked out this time to share my thoughts and principles. So here we go. So anybody who gets this video can hear what I have to say, and we'll go from there. So here's how I set this up to toggle between my face and a camera that shows a poster that I'm going to fill out as we go. So here's my painting. If you get to know me, you'll know that I love color. I use color in many ways with tones and the chakras. And so we'll start out here with my link forgivenesswalks.com/mywalk. Now, this is a link for you to go and schedule a 30-minute call with me to talk personally about what's going on with you and walking, what you're dreaming of walking, what's getting in your way, what you're even thinking about it. So we can go from there. I've been coaching women walking for, oh gosh, what's it been, a dozen years now, and have really learned a lot. So, first of all, let me switch back and tell you a little bit about me. So, Regina Ryder, I grew up in a big family in Dayton, Ohio. My parents took us for walks in nature a lot. And I'm so excited now. I'm back living in Dayton after being gone for 50 years and walking in some of the same parks and on trails that I did as a child. And it's so fulfilling because I realize that that is definitely a foundation for me, and I'm excited. And one of my favorite trails in the Taylorsville Dam Metro Park is where I've met people training for their Appalachian Trail walks. So I've actually even gotten to coach a few people here in Ohio, like 350 miles away from the Appalachian Trail. Anyway, I went to college and studied biology, and that again, I had teachers who took me out into the uh, woods. I learned how to collect salamanders with one of my teachers, and then got my first job before I graduated working at Woodland Altars Outdoor Education Center. Again, had wonderful um, coworkers and bosses who I'm still friends with after all these years, even though they live all kinds of places like Alaska. Um, got married while working there. I was the program director for a couple years, and then moved about for 30 years with my reporter and newspaper man husband ended up in Atlanta, Georgia, with a short stint for me working at the Waldorf school there. And it's interesting because there was some friction there, and um, my desire to connect the children with the outdoors just didn't jive. So over the years, I've like this passion for me to be outside and entice other people to come outside. I realize now is my purpose in life. And so while in Atlanta, I found out that the Appalachian Trail was a couple hours away. Went and stood on that trail and had a palpable feeling that, whoa, this is calling me. If I just keep walking, I can get to Maine. So over the next 5 years between 2001, 2007, I went and visited. I took care of a little section for a few years and planned walking that trail. Oh, in 2005, I'd walked about 700 miles of it in like 12 different trips, refining my gear, getting more and more in love with that life of walking day after day in nature. 2007, I flew up to Maine and walked from Maine to Georgia in a 7 month through hike, getting off the trail just for 1 week long session, during which I completed my training as a radical forgiveness coach. And that teaches me how to help myself and others see that whatever happens to us in our lives has a spiritual message for growth. And I've definitely been able to use those skills. So, finishing that trail in January of 2008, went back home to Atlanta thinking, okay, got this out of my system, but I realized no, hiking is my system. Ended up going out to California for my first time to walk the Pacific Crest Trail, which happened between the end of April and up into September 2008. Again, learned all kinds of lessons about walking, learned how to walk 20 miles a day, how to walk in the desert, in the snow, lots of things. At the end of that walk, though, at one particular moment on the last day before we reached the northern terminus, I stopped, looked around at these mountains and said, oh my gosh, now that I've done this, I know that I can do anything I set out to do. And what I want to do is earn my living hiking, like being out, helping other people, serving, walking in service. So went home, worked on that for a while, and now realize whatever, what is this, 15 years later? I've been doing that in jobs, in my business that I put together, these things that really call me, walking and transforming our beliefs and our misfortunes in life and seeing our lives as spiritually purposeful and how to do that. Like what I love about the radical forgiveness tools, which were uh, created by Colin Tipping, are practical ways to shift energy. They don't just happen by magic. So that works for me because I want to do something when I have an upset, right? Same as you. So I put those two things together and created Forgiveness Walks. So since then, I've coached some people. I've also had two different jobs, which perfectly work with earning my living hiking. One was as a ridge runner for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which is a seasonal position. So the main job is to educate hikers about how to protect and be stewards of the trail. So did that for 7 summers in Virginia, all in a couple different sections in Virginia. And then from 2014 till a year ago, I was the park interpretive specialist at Anza Borrego Desert State Park, which is in the desert of Southern California. So there I did night sky programs, full moon rise programs, ran the Junior Ranger Club, and did many other programs, mostly again helping people really connect with nature in a soulful way. So that job ended a year ago, and I came back to Ohio to assist my mom, who's living in a home. So I realized in that situation, my ideas and influence are not the dominating ones. So I decided, whoa, time to revive Forgiveness Walks. So that's why I'm here today, to explore with you and for you what it is that I look at walking, what I think is a little bit different than you'll hear from other coaches for walking. All right. My clients, Mary and Diane, and Mary out in California, Lee and Barbara can tell you is that my approach helps you focus on making each step easy. So in my years as a ridge runner in Virginia, I listened and talked with thousands of hikers in that area. The ones who were hiking north were at about mile 800. What surprised me was how unhappy a lot of hikers were. The trail was hard, their shins hurt, they wanted to get to town. There were too many mountains. And I was amazed at this kind of adversarial relationship that people had, not only with hiking, but with nature and even with themselves. So I thought, well, first of all, there has to be an easy way to ascend mountains. So I realized I had one that balanced my breathing with my stepping, and I call it Meet the Mountains. So I learned that conquering the mountains is a pretty lofty goal, but meeting the mountains as a friend, as a guide, as an assistant felt a lot better. So you can get my Meet the Mountains technique free on my website, which is forgivenesswalks.com. If you go to, I always forget, Outer Journey, you can get Meet the Mountains. So that was very poignant for me to help people to relate with the trail in a friendly way, in a supportive way. And so that's what you'll find really comes through for me in everything I do with you on the trail. All right, let's get started with my 5 essentials, and we can definitely go into more detail later. So let me switch my camera to my little poster. And first of all, yeah, notice this again. Feel free to go to this site, forgivenesswalks.com, my walk. All right. The 5 surprising essentials. And again, you'll notice my rainbow. If you work with me in one of my programs, you'll find out that the colors mean something and get to develop your own guide here. All right, so here we go. Over here in the red area, the first essential is know your trail. What does this mean? This means to find out where it is, get as much information as you can about the type of trail that it is. You know, is it a paved bike path? Is it a hiking trail? Are there places to stay along the way? If there are, what kind of places? Are you going to have to be backpacking? Can you camp every night? Can you camp no nights? Who are the support people? Where are the maps? Is there a guidebook? All of that. You really want to know what's going on. Even for a day hike, it's important to know how far it is. Where are the exit points? Or is somebody going to have to pick you up at the end? Are you going to walk back and forth? Just all of those things. Know as much as you can about your trail. In my experience, all the long distance trails that I've walked on are different. The Pacific Crest Trail and the Appalachian Trail are in different kinds of terrain. They different lengths. They have very different relationships with towns and support. So you'd want to know that there's some trails that are more gentle. The PCT and the AT are actually pretty difficult physically with elevation, whereas the Superior Hiking Trail in Minnesota is more gentle with low elevation. So you'll want to choose a trail and a length that suits what you want to experience. Along with knowing your trail, you might want to know yourself. Like, what is your reason for being out in nature? And that puzzled me a lot when I met hikers on the AT. They didn't really like being in the woods and complained about seeing rhododendrons for a week. And I'm somebody who loves being in nature, so a 7-month nature walk and daily views of all kinds of different forests really lit me up. So it's really important to know your trail. Okay. Second essential is consider your timing. Timing. Wow, when you think of timing, I realize that timing is prevalent in many areas, all the way from timing in our lives, timing in the seasons, overall timing, timing of each day. There's timing in a week, timing in between sections, there's timing of each hour, there's timing between water sources, there's timing between being home and getting to a trail. And there's timing, I discovered, in every single step. That's where meeting the mountains come in. You know, there's timing in how fast you think you have to climb a mountain or how fast you think you have to go from town to town. So timing is one thing that's very important to consider. We can go into more detail about all the ways timing comes into your walk plan. All right. The third essential is love your gear. All right. It's hard to imagine loving physical things, but I think for me, I do love my gear. I've tested it, I've tried different things, I've honed it, I've made some of my own. I've tried what other people suggested. So it's really important that whatever you have that you're carrying with you is exactly what you want, what you need, and uh, that there's a little dance between what you need and what you have and what you think you'll need. And definitely experience plays into being comfortable with what you have. And nobody can tell you exactly what you are going to prefer. And you know this in buying a car or a house or anything that, there's many choices. So, um, loving your gear, having the gear that fits the season, the terrain, the type of trail you're on, just all of that goes into carefully choosing your gear. All right. Now, these last two are where we kind of get into my particular ways of looking at walking and it being fulfilling, not just a physical endurance test. All right. Magnetize your trail angels. Angels on the trail? Yes. So maybe you're familiar with the Appalachian Trail and how they talk about trail magic, and people who bring trail magic are trail angels. And most people think of food when they think of trail magic and say, oh, we got trail magic. And what they're talking about is people bringing food to a trail, like a road crossing, candy bars, hamburgers, even beer. And but what I've realized, being a walker, is that I like to take care of making sure I have my own food, and getting interrupted at a trail crossing by a huge throng of people isn't always so exciting for me. But the trail itself and the people who maintain it are certainly what I consider to be the main trail angels. It's fun to work with the maintainers, which is possible to do. But I'm also talking about trail angels being any people who show up on my walk, all the people in my life who are supporting me going or being antagonistic while I'm getting ready. I'm going to show myself again here. So, what I discovered while I was getting ready for my through walk is that if people in my life there in Decatur, Georgia, were always talking to me about things they thought were concerns, like they talk about bears. Aren't you afraid to go by yourself? Are you going to be safe? Is it okay to sleep out in the rain? Just all of those things. I realized that those were fears that I had at a certain level. And the more I practiced, the more I went out to the trail for short test walks, the more comfortable I got with the lifestyle, with the wildlife, with how to relate with bears, how to walk solo or attract a hiking partner. All of those things gradually um, faded away from experience. So, and nobody asks me anymore if I'm afraid or if I'm worried about bears. And if they do, then I know it's their fear, not mine, because I have experienced bears now and I have slept out myself and I have been in the cold and all of those things have developed. So rather than see um, antagonists or fearful people in my life as enemies or people to ignore. Using the tools of energy shifting can help me see what really is underneath that um, mirroring. Magnetizing trail angels also comes into play when I am on a trail. I realize walking long distance is definitely a good way to practice the adage that you get back what you put out. Because there were so many times when I'd go into town and I could tell from the way I was feeling what kind of experience I would have. So I started to test it almost like, what if I go in complaining, then I will have a bad experience and all the people in town will seem grumpy and not willing to help me. But if I'm really thanking them, being grateful. Like I would always thank the people in the post office for doing their job because if they weren't there, then people like me walking from town to town wouldn't be able to get our packages. So um, it could work out. So in particular, hikers are complainers and they'll write in the registers, oh, watch out for such and so hostile. That person is mean. And it would be my signal to test that out. So when I say, oh, they weren't mean to me, so magnetizing our trail angels is a very important essential. All right. Now, this fifth one, top of the page, is I think where my way of looking at walking really differs and stands out, and especially for people who are attracted to working with me and like our older women who have experience in life. We're working through our life changes, our relationship changes, and our desire to do a walk that fits our bodies because we're not 25-year-old men any ever and we need to look at the trail a little differently. And in particular, we know that what's going on inside of us is important. So, my fifth essential is to nourish your inner journey. All right. And what do I mean by inner journey? Well, this is how that comes up. So I've put these things on the page in this particular way because they all go together in a guiding star. All right. And the middle of the guiding star is what inspires us to do our walk, as well as coming up to be transformed during our walk and after our walk. So, this little part in the middle represents our inner journey. And it also just so happens that there are 5 phases in any um, radical forgiveness transformation. Again, the system that I use, along with other ones, but in particular, one that I like to use are the tools of radical forgiveness developed by Colin Tipping, where we start by telling our story and we feel our feelings. We shift the energy switch. We reframe our story, and then we integrate a new story. And all of these phases happen in the a process called the 13 Steps to Radical Forgiveness, a board game called Satori, plus a worksheet. And um, if you work with me, creating your walk with all 5 essentials of the guiding star, then you'll definitely get to explore your inner journey. All right. Any questions? So be sure to get in touch with me if you do have questions, and especially to work with me more deeply. I've loved to work with people for 6 months or so that we can really develop any of these uh, essentials. And I would like to invite you to schedule a time to talk with me, because it really is a very personal thing what walk suits us. I know some of my clients are never going to walk the Appalachian Trail, don't even want to walk the Appalachian Trail, but they still value the idea of using a walk near home to um, transform stories that are happening. And my walk for a singing heart can be your guide. We've got it's a kind of semi-guided walk where you'll get Walk for a Singing Heart, which is actually a what audio program of 5 songs written by my friend Barbara Holtz, who's shared her music with me because it resonates so well with what I do. And then 3 different guided visualization exercises that help awaken your senses, charge your energy, which I call the non-senses, and then to transform one of your old beliefs into one of empowerment and freedom. So, got that. Walk for a Singing Heart. You could do one-on-one coaching with me, or uh, I also offer group coaching programs as well. So, there you have a brief synopsis of Regina's 5 surprising essentials. And here, let me show you this one more time. So use this link, forgivenesswalks.com/mywalk, to get into my calendar for the next, like next week. Got some openings. And be sure that you reach out to me, and we'll go from there. It's a Forgiveness Walks is a very customized kind of program, and creating it as we go. And would love to hear from you and talk about working together or collaborating or expanding what we do. So let me finish with one of my favorite quotes from John Muir about walking. I only went out for a walk and then concluded to stay out till sundown. For going out, I found, was really going in. Blessings on your walk. Again, I'm Regina Ryder from forgivenesswalks.com. and this is an introduction to the 5 surprising essentials for crafting your fulfilling walk.